partner. With a man without a vasectomy, a woman has to assume the risks associated with and the burden of alternative contraceptive methods for all of those years between children and menopause. And when those less dependable options fail or are inaccessible, the risks and burden of pregnancy and all of the potential outcomes of the pregnancy, whether it be termination or carrying an unplanned and sometimes unwanted pregnancy to term. Now, what about those female contraceptive options, from hormonal options and IUDs until menopause to tubal ligation? What are the risks, and how do these risks compare with the risks of vasectomy? Should these risks of pregnancy and its possible outcomes, or of a partner's exposure to many years of female-oriented contraceptive methods, be included in the discussion of the risks associated with vasectomy? Should we not all be well-versed in the risks of not having a pregnancy? These are the topics that we're considering today with our panel of family physicians, all experienced in providing healthcare to men and to women. Our panel of experts include Grace Shi, Esgar Guarin, and Sarah Miller, and I would like to welcome them and introduce them when they're about ready to come on. Do we know if we have Sarah or Grace or Esgar ready?
Doug,
Yep.
a little bad news. This could be a conversation for another time, but unfortunately, and Sarah's had to leave. Her babysitter had to go, or she had to do a vasectomy. So I wasn't sure which was of the two, but we can just play it by ear. You know, I mean, I have to say, as frustrating as this is, I am reminded that the first year we were in Mexico, I was, now I got my phone call ring. Oh, please. And just answer it. We're supposed to get her online. Oh, God. Anyhow, that make it good. We could actually catch up now and we can get ahead of things. But the first time when we did it for the 24-hour period, often there was just two people online. And it was Nicolas's girlfriend and my wife. And that was all. And when I got divorced, we lost 50% of our audience. So in retrospect, this is small potato problems. But I think what we're going to do is just continue on with the evening, but we're going to do it, unfortunately and sadly, without you at this point, if you want to go and have wine with the other doctors at the hotel. But your talk will have to be for another day, which is good because we do have a lot of webinars and there's always things to do, but it is unfortunate. It was really interesting. We don't get to hear from Grace very often.
Well, if our speakers are available tomorrow, we have a day tomorrow.
Yeah.
If you happen to have a gap or of some other, we could be a filler.
Yeah, we're always filler. We can always be filler. I'm always looking to be filler. We have this is yeah, it's just the reality of working with technology on a global level, and you know, but we're moving right ahead, so everything's going to be fine. We're going to get it going tomorrow. We've got, you know, the whole set of things. I think when things moved into Africa, they always seem to go really well there. They're really organized. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this year continues with that same spirit. So I'm going to continue. I think what we'll do now is we're waiting. I think we have 10 minutes and we just keep chatting, right? Why not? We'll fill in the time, Doug. So Doug, let me ask you a question. When do you think, like, you're going to keep doing vasectomies like in the foreseeable future, or do you sort of getting tired, or you still love what you do?
Oh, I love what I do. You know, I never wanted the logistics of my occupation to wear me out. But I've been fortunate enough to have an office that's very close to my home. I've been fortunate enough to have a couple of associates who have joined me and are handling the busyness, which allows me to do a lot of the administrative work, to do training, which I really love to do. I have people coming to my office every 2 to 4 weeks, and I get to meet somebody new, and I get to see what motivates people who want vasectomy training. And it's fun. A little anecdote from this trip to Argentina was I was with a trainee yesterday, and he had done, I think, 3 or 4 cases with Michelle. So I was getting him, and this was his second or third day. And Jonathan, on one of his cases, second to the last, he did a vasectomy that we would call textbook. It was just perfect. And he knew that he had done a perfect vasectomy. And I could just almost feel this guy's heart swelling with pride that he had achieved this style, this grace with performing the process, that I think I think we might have given him that addiction, because I'm hoping that he seeks that feeling again that we all get when we really accomplish a vasectomy that is so smooth that the patient says, wow, you're done already.
Why do you
It was
think,
fun.
I mean, do you think that's true for any procedure that anybody does, that same feeling of exceptional? Or is there something in your own career, because you were a urologist, you've done a lot of other kinds of procedures, then you switched exclusively to vasectomy or reversals. Do you think there is something special or something about vasectomy that attracts people who have a different relationship to being doctors?
Well, I think it's all patients who seek medical care are vulnerable in a way, but men seeking vasectomy are vulnerable in a slightly varied way, in that when you think about the a number of times women have had to expose their most private body parts. They had to get examinations starting with their pap smears. So once a year, they'd go to the gynecologist. When they got pregnant, they would have to get monthly exams. When they were delivering their child, they'd get an examination every 15 minutes once labor started, sometimes by a stranger. But the guys who come in may not have been examined by a clinician, since somebody did a hernia exam on them when they were in high school or when they were in the military. So they're a little bit shy, they feel a little bit vulnerable, and it's so much fun to relax them and to get them through this thing, and to see the relief with which they leave the office is really much a part of the satisfaction. And I think that's what Javier yesterday felt when he was done. Now Javier is going to, it was a little bit like, yes. But Javier is going to have some difficult vasectomies in the future, and he's not always going to feel that positive reinforcement. But when he does, it is really going to stay with him, and I hope it gives him he's a surgeon, so he may get that sort of positive reinforcement out of completing other types of surgical undertakings with with a degree that he says, wow, I really did a good job on that one. But I just think that there's something about a perfect vasectomy that is almost addicting, and you want to do it again.
At this point in your life or your career, is the teaching and spreading the knowledge or providing people to have that experience, or that is as important as doing the procedures themselves?
Well, as I told you, it is a little bit like training through World Vasectomy Day. Not all of our trainees are going to turn into superstars. But if 1 out of 3, 1 out of 5 turns into an Esgar Guarin or a John Curington or an Alex Galante, and then gets into that feeling that there's nothing more in life that's more satisfying than preventing unintended pregnancies through vasectomy, that makes my time worth it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you seed, now you can kind of count your impact, not just by the men who get vasectomy, but by the doctors who you've trained who then go on to do the work.
I'm kind of as you very well know, I think my motivation is an environmental one. I think 8.3 billion is enough, and I'm very much attuned to habitat loss and loss of biomass of wild species, and also that gives me, now other people are maybe motivated by just the fun of doing procedures. Some maybe, women have done enough type people. But that gives me enough meaning that when I got out of general urology in the year 2000, I sort of simplified it to, my goal in life is to prevent unintended pregnancies through vasectomy. And as long as I can do that, whether it's with my hands or by imparting the skill to someone else, whether in my office or here in Argentina, I feel like that goal can be accomplished when I can no longer provide the service.
To kind of leave that legacy.
Right.
But you've also been so instrumental through the ski seminar, through opening your home to sort of build that community, and that sharing of that knowledge has been such a big part of it, especially I think for young doctors for whom in certain locations, being a vasectomy doctor is lonely, where you're the only one in a whole country doing it. It's very different than if you're in a place where like Canada, where it's kind of pretty common and it's just the procedure. In Zambia, you're sort of planting a whole new thinking.
Doctors are used to being, some doctors are better at being lonely than I am. Esgar is here, and Esgar had to do part of his training out in the middle of a very remote area in Colombia, where you're the doctor. He can share some words about
Let me get Esgar on the stage here, who just came back from doing vasectomies. Yeah.
Hi, Doug.
Hi there, Esgar. Let me.
Sorry.
I think most
Everybody's
know
ready?
you, Esgar, but
Let me-
I'm gonna-
Let me bring something else so we can have that
So-
conversation.
Let me introduce Esgar. Esgar is a board-certified family medicine specialist dedicated to the practice of reproductive care. After years of providing obstetric care, Dr. Gorine is now committed to the promotion of vasectomies as the most effective method of contraception. He built the first mobile vasectomy unit in the United States and currently traverses America's heartland, bringing vasectomies to communities far from large urban areas, while also performing vasectomies in a number of Midwestern cities. He's active training other doctors through World Vasectomy Day, and his years of providing maternal and obstetrical care qualify him to provide insight into the risks associated with pregnancy and childbirth. And I've known Esgar long enough that I enjoy his stories about some of the challenges that are posed to women, and all of the risks associated with pregnancy and childbirth are really worth it when it's an intended pregnancy, because the result is another usually wanted and wonderful, fulfilling human being. But when it is an unintended pregnancy, those risks are unmet by that positive outcome.
Pregnancy is a beautiful stage in the life of a family. It's a beautiful stage in the life of an individual capable of carrying that pregnancy, but it doesn't come without a risk. And I agree with you. If the individual is willingly accepting those risks, that's a different thing. But when we're talking about unintended pregnancies, or even worse, an unintended pregnancy that happened when proactively they were trying to avoid it, because it fails, those risks I would say are even bigger, right? And we need to consider that when we're talking about what we accomplish with a vasectomy, because the vasectomy provides this great sense of relief, because not only are you expressing how satisfied you are with your fertility, or how satisfied the family is with their fertility, that is with the number of children that they have had, but it gives them the peace of mind that that unplanned pregnancy is not going to happen, because it's highly, highly effective. Oh, we have a presentation there. Well,
Oh my God.
well, we're gonna talk about the risk of not having a vasectomy, and that was the intention with our conversation here. We're going to see this from different perspectives. The perspective, the view that I have responsibility to discuss is the perspective of the unintended pregnancy and what happens with the pregnancy. As I said earlier, I don't know if I can pass the slide from here. Guys? Okay. Can we, yeah. Can it move to the next slide? Oh, there you go. That's pretty bright. I'm not so sure we can see it, but basically, you know, vasectomy is the only method of male contraception that we have available and is 3 times less common than tubal ligation. So that is telling us that there is a gap in the participation in contraception by male individuals. And that's why many of us, all of us here, are promoting vasectomies with such a passion. But who are these guys? Who are these individuals who are getting vasectomies? Well, are men usually in their, mid 30s to mid 40s. In fact, we know that the older the individual is, the higher the proportion or the higher the utilization of vasectomies. And this is an important thing that we need to keep in mind, because later we're going to talk about the type of uh, partner or the age of the partner for those individuals who are getting pregnancies, because that is an important factor to take into consideration when we talk about the risks of a potential pregnancy on those partners. I'm going to go to the next one, and just if you can go to the next slide. Are you guys? There you go. This is just to remind everyone that pregnancy has a risk. Pregnancy, as I said earlier, is a beautiful thing, but pregnancies are a risky business. When a woman gets pregnant, she's putting her body at risk for complications. And we're not talking about a high-risk pregnancy. We're not talking about the complications of multiple pregnancies, the complication of a twin pregnancy. We're talking about in general, all pregnancies, even the low-risk pregnancy, that comes with a risk. The women die because they are pregnant. 260,000 women died during or following pregnancy, according to World Health Organization in 2023. That's not an insignificant number, especially when we think that many of those women actually got into that risky situation willingly. Now, many of those got into that risky situation unwillingly because they had an unintended pregnancy. The global maternal mortality ratio it has decreased, it has improved, but still it is very relevant. So this slide is to show you that pregnancy is a risky business. So just to start, we need to consider the risk associated with being pregnant, period. Now, that pregnancy, the risk of the pregnancy actually increased with the increase in the age of the patient. And you can see it in that graph that I have there on the right side of the graph. The older the patient, the higher the risks associated with the pregnancy. We're going to move to the second to the next slide, and we're going to go real brief over these slides, because there are multiple things that can happen with the pregnancy. But 75% of the maternal deaths that happen are related to 6 different complications, which are, can we go to the next slide, please? Which are those that you have there. Severe bleeding, infections, high blood pressure related conditions like preeclampsia and eclampsia, complications from delivery, and unsafe abortion. 75% of the deaths happen in pregnant women happen because of the pregnancy itself. These are things associated with the pregnancy. There are other complications related or risk related to the pregnancy, like having a stillbirth and placental complications like abnormal placentation. But 75% of what kills a woman while she's pregnant is directly related to the fact that she got pregnant. Let's move on to the next one. The mode of delivery, next slide, please. The mode of delivery has a lot to do with the morbidity and the mortality of the patient. It's not the same. Can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. It's not the same thing to have a vaginal delivery, which is already a risky business because the patient can actually have bleeding. They can die from severe bleeding. But if you add to that having to have a cesarean section, you increase the risks even further, because we're talking about a major surgery for this patient compared to a vaginal delivery. Maternal mortality and morbidity are higher with a cesarean section. in low resource settings, in places where they don't have access to appropriate care, the mortality can be as high as 5 times when you have a cesarean section. And we need to take that into consideration. The mode of delivery increases the risk for the patient. Please, let's go to the next slide. This is an interesting systematic review and a meta-analysis of 36 studies that compare unintended pregnancy and pregnancy and intended pregnancy. Let's go to the next slide because the results are in the next one. Next slide, please. So when you compare unintended pregnancy and intended pregnancy, there are higher odds of depression. We're not talking about the other risk of bleeding, the risks of maternal death associated with preeclampsia, what we talked before. We're talking about depression. Pregnant women who got pregnant without looking for that pregnancy are at higher odds of having depression during the pregnancy and after the pregnancy, and that increases morbidity considerably. Interpersonal violence, we're not talking about what their bodies can do to themselves, but what other person can do to them. When it's an unintended pregnancy, interpersonal violence increases by a factor of 3. That's a lot. Preterm birth increases, and infant low birth weight increases as well when it's an unintended pregnancy. So with this, what we're seeing is that unintended pregnancy not only leads to increased risks for the individual to be harmed by the pregnancy, but increases the risk of somebody else hurting them, with interpersonal violence, and increases the risk of harming somebody else, which is harming the child. So there are risks that are not just for the patient, but for the people around her, meaning also for the family. Let's go to the next slide. So just move to the next slide. So who are these women who are getting pregnant? Who are these women who have all those risks? Who are the women or the partners of these guys who are getting vasectomies? We saw in the first slide how the older the patient is within that age range between 35 and 45, 49, the higher the utilization of vasectomy. Therefore, we can assume just by looking at the first slide that the partners of those individuals are going to be about the same age group, give or take, right? And this study that was done using the pregnancy risk assessment monitoring system that looked at over 35,000 married women in 15 states and in New York showed that typically the partners of those who were using vasectomies, they used the marker they used was women who reported partner vasectomy as their postpartum contraceptive method. So that's a way to see who are the acceptors or who are the patients of those acceptors of vasectomy. They saw that typically those patients are in their 30s, often averaging around 37 years old. 29% of those women who report having or using or relying on a vasectomy during the postpartum period, 29% of those are 34 years or older. What does that mean? Well, it turns out there's a term. Let's go to the next slide, please. There's a term called advanced maternal age. And advanced maternal age is patients who are 35 or older. And in obstetrics, that is extremely important because we do know that, not just for the record, not that there's anything magic between 34 and 35, but in general, patients around this age have increased additional risks. So we were talking about risks of pregnancy. We talked about risks of unintended pregnancy. Now we're going to talk about risks of somebody of that age group being pregnant just by being pregnant. So if you compound risks of pregnancy plus the risks of unintended pregnancy plus the risks of being 35 and older because of advanced maternal age, we have a massive time bomb here. And not only that, I mean, you said it right I agree with you at the beginning. If there's an intention to get pregnant, the patient would assume those risks willingly. But if the patient is 35 or older and she gets pregnant, she's going to have to carry the risks of the pregnancy, the risks of being 35, and the risks of not doing it willingly. So that is really harmful to them. So many men seek vasectomy between ages 35 and 45. And those are usually the patients, that's usually the age of the patient, of the female patient, who could benefit indirectly or actually directly from having a vasectomy. What happens with those patients? Well, there's a lot of things that happen. You know, risks in general increase for many things during the pregnancy. Down syndrome, for example, we know that the risk continues to increase. So here we are with another added risk, another added risk to what we have discussed already. Complications associated with high blood pressure, hypertensive disorders in pregnancy increase as well. Let's move to the next slide, please. Maternal mortality, it increases. You see that study from Sweden, how it shows that the older the patient is, the higher the risk of death. Other birth complications in general increase. But there's one single good thing. Older moms breastfeed better. That's the only thing that is worth it. Older moms, mothers with advanced maternal age actually breastfeed better. But everything else is much worse for them. Let's move to the next slide. And I'm going to share this clinical case just to close this. I had a patient many years ago. Her name, we're going to call her Jane. She was 37. She was a 37-year-old female, had been pregnant 4 times. She was in her 4th pregnancy, had 3 children before, and she was pregnant at 39 weeks. She did not intend to be pregnant, yet she carried through with the pregnancy. Her pregnancy, fortunately, was uncomplicated, and by uncomplicated, I mean she did not have any of those risks or did not have the consequences of those risks associated just with her pregnancy, did not have any of those risks associated with being 30 advanced maternal age, right? But she did have a history of 3 previous cesarean sections. She had her first cesarean section with her first child for failure to progress. That is, the baby never dropped below low in the birth canal, and she ended up having to have a cesarean section. And then she went on to have 2 more children, and they just had repeat cesarean sections. So she was using contraception, and she got pregnant. So contraception failed her, but she chose to continue with the pregnancy. Now she was admitted to my service, and I had followed her.
In
for-
labor? Or
No. She came in for a repeat cesarean section at 39 weeks,
without going into labor?
which took some of the risks away because these patients with previous cesarean sections, and I'm going to show you that in the very last slide, have additional risks for this particular case. So she wanted to have permanent contraception. She did not intend to get pregnant this time, but she's accepting the fact that she has 4 pregnancies.
And one contraceptive failed. She
One
was using
contraceptive
Depo-Provera.
failure. That's right, because she was using the Depo-Provera. But it turns out she was admitted to a hospital where I had privileges, which was a Catholic institution, an institution that had been bought by a Catholic organization, and they did not allow any form of contraception inside the hospital. She could not deliver at a different institution. I pushed her to deliver at a different institution so she could have a tubal ligation in the middle of her cesarean section. She couldn't do it because physically she could not go to another place. And her husband refused to get a vasectomy. So this is a good example of how all those different risks associated with pregnancy, unintended pregnancy, advanced maternal age, risks for the patient, and risks for the baby are all compounded to give us the argument that not having a vasectomy when needed is a very, very dangerous thing. It's a very risky thing. We're not just talking about not having more children because we're fulfilled, we're happy, we don't want to have any more children, we're going to get a vasectomy. When we get a vasectomy, when we provide a timely vasectomy for those who are ready, we help reduce all these risks. This particular patient, and last slide, please. These are all the risks that this patient has. There's a this is the column of complications. We have placenta accreta, which is an abnormal placentation, a growth of the placenta through the uterus. A placenta previa, the development of adhesions, intraoperative organ injury when we're getting in there to do the cesarean section, postpartum hemorrhage, the need for blood transfusion, hysterectomy, the risk of ICU admission, maternal mortality. All those are the complications. And look at the estimated frequency and the risk increase for each one of them when she's having multiple cesarean sections. The risk of accreta increases to almost 7% after 6 cesarean sections. The risks of adhesions after 3 cesarean sections increases to 47%. So we're talking about the fact that that woman is going to have probably a bowel obstruction later on in life when she's in her 50s or 60s. So having a vasectomy reduces all those risks because there's a lot of risk with unintended pregnancy when you don't get one. That is the perspective from getting just pregnant.
Wow, that is, I wonder if the obstetricians advise their patients about the risks associated with their husbands not getting a vasectomy.
I would love to see that. I would love to see obstetricians doing vasectomies. And we know that actually, and we've discussed this before.
Absolutely.
In Guatemala, in Ethiopia, 70 to 75% of the vasectomies done in those countries are done by gynecologists. They're very well positioned to provide this service. And if they truly, and I'm not trying to say that they're doing something wrong by not offering it, but if they truly have the best interest of their patients in mind and in their hearts, they should bring the discussion of vasectomy over a tubal ligation. Because I personally, after practicing obstetrics for many years, to me, the only instance perhaps for where a tubal ligation will be acceptable will be in the middle of a cesarean section because the abdomen is already open. Or if the patient herself, is alone, she wants to take matters into her own hands. But whenever the alternative of getting a vasectomy exists, it's unacceptable that she goes through a separate procedure.
World Vasectomy Day was born in Africa. A little mini story. We were working in Kenya, but the reason that we were there is because Charles Ocheng, who is now an extremely skilled, his wife had so much trouble with her pregnancies and deliveries and with subsequent forms of contraception that they were just desperate. And he had to look all over Kenya to find a vasectomy, which he ultimately did. But he said, this was easy enough for me that I have to make this more available. And for a guy who had never left Kenya, Uganda, and Southern Sudan, he found his way all the way over to Florida. And then after he trained, he invited us to go to Kenya. And that is how this whole business got started, because Jonathan was joining me in Kenya. I think he came up with the idea of a World Vasectomy Day while we were in Kenya. So I think he might have come up with it otherwise.
I think we're done with time. We've been told that we're out of time, but that is exactly what I stopped doing what I was doing, and I do what I do.
Yeah.
Because I think I can make it easier for all these men to actually make this decision, go through the process in a simple and very effective way.
You probably contribute to female health more as a vasectomist than you do as
I think so. Yes.
Okay, do we have any more speakers on this topic?
Yes, I'm going to get on. You guys get off. I'm going to introduce the next speakers.
Okay, but it's
Thank
not
you.
Grace or Sal.
No, they're
Keep our mics here.
yeah. Hello. Apologies to everybody who's hacer sus contribuciones al todo. Primero, está ahí Milka.
Sí, Jonathan, hola, buenas noches.
Hola, disculpa. Milka, ¿estás allá?
Sí, hola, buenas noches, Jonathan. ¿Me escuchas?
No.
Hello, hello, I'm here.
Oh, there she is. Hi. Is that you, Milka? Hello, how are you?
I'm good, Jonathan. Hi.
Hey, Milka, durante los años siempre has sido una gran amiga y nosotros de World Vasectomy Day quería reconocer tus contribuciones con un pequeño video y reconocimiento. Si te permites avergonzarte un poquito, voy a pedirle a nuestro equipo a pasar nuestro corto video, pero algo que significa mucho para nosotros. Katy, si puedes pasar el video.
Ah. ¿Cuántos años? La misma blusa.
Oh, Milka, muchas gracias. Gracias por todo tu cariño durante estos años. Tu servicio ha sido increíble y no solo el trabajo que has hecho, sino en Bogotá. Estuve en Bogotá y tuve la oportunidad de conocer en persona a tu nueva, quien te sigue y eso estamos todos así muy orgullosos de ti, de ser tu amiga, de ser tú eres una persona que siempre cuando te pide algo te presentas, estás ahí y muchas gracias.
Gracias a ti, Jonathan. Siempre ha sido un gusto para mí trabajar con World Vasectomy Day. Yo soy una firme defensora de la vasectomía. Yo, como siempre, digo que es el método más sencillo, ¿no? No invasivo, no requiere cirugía ni bisturí y es realmente un gran apoyo de los hombres a sus parejas, a sus mujeres. La anticoncepción femenina a veces puede ser difícil porque hay hormonas, hay el tema también quirúrgico. Hacer una mini laparotomía es una operación quirúrgica y en cambio la vasectomía es algo tan sencillo y que ayuda tanto a las parejas que ya han cumplido con todo su ideal reproductivo. Así que yo deseo siempre que World Vasectomy Day sea un éxito. En los países donde ustedes van siempre tienen gran éxito y yo me alegro mucho de eso. Me alegra mucho que Argentina haya entrado también a World Vasectomy Day. Acá en Perú tuvimos un gran éxito hasta ahora. Las campañas de vasectomía se hacen de manera permanente, así que aquí vamos, ¿no? Seguimos adelante y yo siempre estaré aquí en mi sillón aplaudiendo todo lo que hacen ustedes en todo el mundo. Gracias a ti, Jonathan, y a todo el equipo de World Vasectomy Day. Siempre
Mira,
estarán en mi corazón.
muchas gracias. Son 13 años ahora para nosotros. Tengo una pregunta. ¿Cuándo comenzaste este trabajo? ¿Cuándo te integraste al trabajo? Si no me equivoco, vienes de una familia que tenía tradición de trabajar en planificación familiar, que tenía incluso una, creo que abuela que fue partera, pero tú, no, si no me equivoco, tú estudiaste ingeniería. Quiero saber cómo cambiaste de carrera y qué fue la motivación y cómo se ha cambiado estos años que estás en esta carrera.
Bueno, yo realmente estudié ingeniería, como bien dices, y empecé a trabajar en desarrollo internacional en el año 87, 88, con la Agencia Canadiense para el Desarrollo Internacional. Y en ese momento hacía de todo, ¿no? Desde conservación de suelos, a salud, a forestales, o sea, era un portafolio de una serie de proyectos, entre los que teníamos proyectos de salud, pero yo era una todista, ¿no? Hacíamos de todo. Entonces me ayudó mucho ser ingeniera. Yo de profesión soy ingeniera pesquera o bióloga marina, como sería en otras partes, pero me ayudó mucho ser ingeniera porque siempre he sido muy ordenada y muy disciplinada para el trabajo. Entonces, empecé a trabajar así en todo lo que era cooperación. De ahí entré a CARE, también en el cargo de subdirectora, viendo todos los proyectos de CARE. Y cuando empecé a trabajar en Pathfinder International en el año 98, ahí empecé realmente mi carrera en salud reproductiva, ¿no? En salud sexual y reproductiva. Y me dediqué exclusivamente a salud sexual y reproductiva. Pero tienes razón, mi abuela materna, mi abuela Julia, yo me llamo Milka Julia por ella, mi abuela Julia fue una de las primeras obstetras, que se dice ahora, en el Perú, que trabajaban en la maternidad de Lima. Y lo interesante de la abuela es que ella estudió para ser médico también, una de las primeras médicas ginecólogas en el Perú que trabajaba en la maternidad de Lima en los años 20. Así que desde ahí viene la tradición en el tema de planificación familiar y bueno, para mí ha sido pues, son 45 años y más de trabajo que he realizado y desde el año 98 exclusivamente en el tema de salud sexual y reproductiva. Así que he visto mucho, Jonathan, he conocido mucho y me alegra tanto ver que, por ejemplo, cuando yo empecé a trabajar, la muerte materna a nivel global era terriblemente alta, ¿no? Eh, eh, Hablábamos de millones de mujeres que morían año a año por muerte materna, porque no tenían un método de planificación familiar que las ayudara a no tener tantos embarazos seguidos, ¿no? Entonces, para mí ha sido un gusto ver que en estos años de mi carrera la muerte materna ha bajado dramáticamente en casi todos los países. Tenemos todavía ciertas barreras, pero te diría que a nivel global la muerte materna ha bajado enormemente, ¿no? Ahora estamos hablando de 250.000 muertes maternas al año y muertes que pueden ser prevenibles, ¿no? Pueden ser prevenibles con una vasectomía, pueden ser prevenibles con un método anticonceptivo.
Qué bien, qué bien. Bueno, mira, la noche nos está escapando, pero me gusta por escuchar de la historia, porque también estamos aprovechando esta oportunidad durante nuestra conversación para hablar de próximas generaciones. Están con nosotros. Me da mucho orgullo presentar a nuestra amiga Natalia de León, que es del FP 2030. Está súper cansada porque está teniendo un Bogotá, una conferencia donde ella demostró todas sus capacidades de liderazgo. Es una chica no joven, no sé qué edad tiene, pero parece sabia y al mismo tiempo una energía sin límite. Es un gran placer presentar a Natalia de León. Quería, si estás ahí, Natalia, por favor, júntate y quédate.
Hola, hola, buenas tardes, buenas noches. aquí presente. Para aclarar mi edad, que estaba mencionando Jonathan, tengo 25 años, para que sepan, y súper emocionada de pues oír ahorita toda la trayectoria de Milka, que yo ya conocía, pero es un placer pues saber un poquito más de tu historia y de lo que te motiva, y gracias por el espacio, Jonathan.
¿Y cómo te fue? ¿Cómo puedes resumir qué fue la experiencia en Bogotá? Si, ¿cómo saliste? Si hay optimismo o cómo fue tu experiencia allá?
Creo que definitivamente de mi parte hay optimismo. Creo que era una conferencia en la que necesitábamos por el momento en torno a salud sexual y reproductiva. Creo que fue un año muy difícil para muchísimas organizaciones y muchísimas personas a nivel personal, porque no es secreto que han habido muchos ataques em, específicamente a la salud sexual y reproductiva, y también el recorte de fondos, que es algo que ha afectado grandemente a muchísimas personas en el sector. Creo que era un momento para venir y unirnos, y creo que eso es lo que logró la conferencia, lograr adaptar nuevas ideas y tomar innovación desde otros países que especialmente aquí en Latinoamérica y el Caribe a veces nos quedamos intercambiando entre países de la región, pero conocer innovación desde Asia, desde África, es algo muy importante, que creo que fue un hito histórico de la conferencia. Era un momento en que necesitábamos unirnos, y creo que fue un buen momento para tener ese contexto pasar aquí en Bogotá, Colombia.
¿Y tenías tiempo para comunicar con otros jóvenes de África? ¿O si
Sí, sí,
fuera? Ya, disculpa, ya.
no, por supuesto, yo creo que especialmente previo a la conferencia internacional de planificación familiar, tuvimos una cumbre de juventudes de 2 días con más de 500 a 600 jóvenes participando. Entonces, para mí, ese momento en especial fue muy crítico para conectar con otras juventudes, y en especial intercambiar ideas sobre qué es lo que vemos que está funcionando, y cómo nos vio afectado todo el recorte de financiación, que en especial para colegas en África, para organizaciones lideradas por juventudes, fue un momento muy difícil en que todavía están buscando adaptarse y tratando de moverse para buscar fondos, pero en general creo que ese fue el mejor momento para conectar con otras juventudes, ya que en la conferencia en sí yo creo que eran más de 3.000 personas reunidas en un lugar, lo que puede ser muy abrumador y un momento muy difícil a veces para lograr conectar con otras personas. Entonces la cumbre de juventudes la vi un poco más íntima y personal en ese sentido.
Sí, no fue tan grande y a veces la gente, bueno, es la frustración a veces de lengua, traducción de inglés al español fue siempre complicado, ya sabemos, y América Latina es no. Cuando fuimos en África, la gente, bueno, era predominantemente era en inglés, pero en América Latina, bueno, obviamente es español. Y dime una cosa, con todos los problemas que hay, se está notando en manera visceral como estamos viendo problemas que están ocurriendo en los países, porque yo sé que también, Natalia, estás como FP 2030, estás coordinando con todos los países de América Latina. Quería saber si los problemas que hemos visto en estos años se está presentando en eso, allá bueno, en América Latina.
Definitivamente creo que algunos problemas que predominantemente afectan a la región tienen que ver con adolescencias y juventudes. Por ejemplo, la tasa de embarazo adolescente en América Latina y el Caribe, que es particularmente alta, y también en niñas de 10 a 14 años, que somos la única región en todo el mundo donde esa tasa va ascendiendo en vez de descendiendo, lo cual es algo extremadamente difícil. Creo que aquí en Latinoamérica y el Caribe nos juegan varias cosas en contra, en especial cuando miramos una mezcla de una perspectiva religiosa y conservadurismo puestas juntas. Creo que todas las personas en Latinoamérica, si les preguntas, ay, ¿qué piensas de que una niña de 11 años en un área rural, en Petén, Guatemala, esté embarazada? Te van a decir, uy, qué fatal. Pero cuando ya se habla de prevención, es que vemos una gran barrera en cómo nos acercamos a las personas. También mencionar todo lo que tiene que ver con métodos anticonceptivos de larga duración y modernos, que es una gran barrera que tenemos aquí en Latinoamérica y el Caribe. Yo creo que hemos visto muchas organizaciones acercarse y hacer su lucha para encontrar innovación en este ámbito, pero igual nos falta mucho por hacer, mucho por recorrer. Yo creo que firmemente con la gran innovación que hemos visto desde muchas organizaciones lideradas por y para juventudes, es que vamos a lograr generar mucho cambio aquí en Latinoamérica y el Caribe, al igual que la colaboración a nivel intergeneracional, que creo que va a ser clave porque no se trata solo de ser juventudes o no se trata solo de ser adultos de más de 35 años moviendo este movimiento para adelante, pero en realidad creo que tiene que ser un esfuerzo colaborativo basado en el respeto mutuo y el conocimiento que podemos generar entre todos.
Mm. Y no sé, para los que no saben, ¿puedes dar como una pequeña explicación de qué es el trabajo FP 2030?
Por supuesto, entonces para contextualizar un poquito a las personas que nos están escuchando el día de hoy, FP 2030 es una alianza que une a personas, pues a organizaciones en el sector, ya sea el sector privado, países, ONGs, etcétera, para lograr gestionar cambio en el movimiento. Aquí en Latinoamérica y el Caribe empezamos a trabajar el año pasado, pero FP 2030 lleva más de 12 años en el sector. Entonces, ha sido una alianza relativamente nueva en América Latina y el Caribe, pero que ha tenido presencia en el sector, específicamente en África y Asia ya por bastante tiempo. En este año de ejecución aquí en Latinoamérica y el Caribe hemos logrado asociar a más de 170 organizaciones compromisarias. 2 países han firmado un compromiso con FP 2030, que son Honduras y Colombia. El de Colombia fue anunciado ahora para la conferencia. Y pues lo que tratamos de hacer es unificar el sector para movernos juntos hacia un futuro donde los derechos sexuales y reproductivos de todas las personas puedan ser plenamente adquiridos y gozados.
Muy bien. Bueno, voy a aprovechar también que tenemos con nosotros Ximena Armendáriz, que es la nueva Milka Dinev o el futuro o el presente del Foro LAC. Y Foro LAC es la organización que organiza, bueno, es como un conviene todas las organizaciones de América Latina que están trabajando en planificación familiar. Bueno, Ximena, por favor, súbete si estás ahí, que queremos hablar un ratito.
Hola Jonathan, ¿qué tal? ¿Me escuchan?
Sí, escuchamos bien.
Perfecto. Gracias por invitarme, por tenerme aquí.
Estamos ahí. Ah, ahí está. ¿Cómo te fue para ti? ¿Cómo fue tu experiencia ya en Colombia?
Creo que ha sido una conferencia muy potente en un tiempo muy difícil. Al principio escuchábamos, al menos desde nuestro lado en la coalición, muchas dudas de si deberíamos tener esta conferencia en un momento tan complicado, sobre todo para el sector, teniendo en cuenta que se estaban perdiendo, como sabemos, mucho financiamiento y muchos trabajos y acciones en el campo, pero estando ahí y compartiendo, creo que fue un espacio importante para que las organizaciones pudieran justamente más ahora que nunca volver a renovar sus alianzas, reconectar y también reevaluar prioridades, ¿no? Y en dónde también poner, digamos, como dice, como decía mi abuelita, dónde poner los huevos, en qué canasta poner los huevos, ¿no? Porque tenemos que ser muy efectivos, tenemos que ser muy estratégicos y necesitamos coordinar para no gastar, digamos, esfuerzos en vano, ¿no?
El, el, quería saber, nosotros estamos aquí ahora en Argentina y
Sí,
la demanda para vasectomía es muy alta
yo sé.
y no hay instrumentos, que faltan instrumentos, son muy básicos. El problema es de que los instrumentos, no hay nadie que lo han registrado en el país. Y en parte la razón por la cual no se registra es porque el proceso de registrar es muy caro y muy complicado acá, requiere mucha atención. ¿Cómo tienes una sugerencia? Porque eso va a limitar la habilidad de extender el servicio acá si no encuentra manera de entregarlo. Y sabía, ¿qué es lo que podremos hacer para responder a ese desafío?
Ahora, en particular en Argentina, estamos viendo muchos desafíos con la variedad de productos que hay. En general, no solo en vasectomía, sino también anticonceptivos para que ahora las provincias puedan comprar. Y va a tener que haber todo un proceso de cambio en cuanto a que entren nuevos proveedores al mercado, porque a diferencia de los años anteriores, Argentina está transicionando hacia un modelo de aseguramiento de insumos distinto, ¿no? Debido al contexto actual. Y nosotros justo estamos trabajando con algunas provincias, incluida la provincia de Buenos Aires, para tratar de que puedan tener mayores facilidades para comprar. Y un asunto que nos falta también trabajar, yo creo, es la parte de los fabricantes, los distribuidores y el tema de que entren más medicamentos e insumos, dispositivos e instrumentos con registros al país, ¿no? Y poder también hacerlo de manera adecuada con la AGMET, y que y que pueda haber una variedad de dispositivos, insumos, anticonceptivos en el país dentro de los cuales los gobiernos puedan elegir, puedan comprar y puedan tener disponibilidad, ¿no?
Ya, ok. Bueno, vamos a seguir conversando. Quería hablar un poquito con Lucía, Isabel, y tengo aquí a mi lado, tengo a Alison Hoover, que ha estado con World Vasectomy tantos años, que era joven legítima cuando te conocí. Y, y ya estás, creo que estás a punto de llegar a 35 años. Y eso fue importante porque para la conferencia te dieron descuento de 50%, pero desde el próximo ya no vas a ser legal para eso.
Mi juventud está al punto de fin. De
No, no,
terminar.
para mí siempre vas a ser joven. Pero quería saber un poquito antes de pasar a Lucía, si está allá, quería ver un poquito tu perspectiva de qué es lo que has estado ya en dos ICFPs, no. ¿Es la segunda conferencia
De
o la tercera vez que estás en una conferencia de planificación familiar?
tercer.
Tercera. ¿Qué cosas has visto cambios y cómo tú crees que el rol del jóvenes figura ahora que ha cambiado? Y me gusta, y si específicamente con hombres jóvenes.
Muy buena pregunta. Es que generalmente los jóvenes son como una añadición a la perspectividad y generalmente estamos tomando como alguien para poner en las conversaciones, pero no sobre las perspectivas en posiciones de poder y falta la oportunidad a tomar ellos en serio cuando estamos conversando sobre las cosas que se afectan. Y también una cosa que escuché que me afectó mucho durante la conferencia de planificación familiar era esa perspectiva de que los jóvenes no son las próximas, son de ahora y de en ese momento. Y queremos que podemos tomar este enfoque y dar el poder, la oportunidad, no en el futuro, tan como en ese momento que tenemos al frente de nosotros. Y Lucía, pienso que estás en línea.
Sí, aquí estoy.
Me encantaría escuchar de tú y tus perspectivas de esa pregunta de que cómo estamos cambiando esas perspectivas de los jóvenes en cualquier idioma prefieres.
Ay, muchas gracias por tenerme, por invitarme. No, fue una experiencia muy interesante, la verdad me gustó mucho estar con los jóvenes, porque hay mucha energía, una energía que no se encuentra en otras partes, porque la verdad, como bien dijiste, Alison, dicen que no somos el futuro, somos el presente, y tienen toda la razón. Este mundo es de ellos y se espera mucho de ellos, ¿no es cierto? Porque es, y a veces pienso que no es tan justo, ¿no? Poner todo el peso del futuro en los hombros de los jóvenes, pero yo creo que ellos lo toman muy seriamente y lo ven, no, es que estamos creando el futuro ahora. Y lo que me gustó mucho, pues escucharles, escuchar sus sueños, escuchar que están tomando en serio su salud sexual em, y reproductiva, y que realmente quieren ser parte de estas decisiones, ya no quieren estar al lado, ¿no? Y me parece muy buena idea porque por mucho tiempo los hemos tenido ahí al margen y dice, ah, nosotros sabemos mejor, así se hace, bla, 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 ¿no? Y yo creo que tomando la energía de esos jóvenes, realmente tomándoles en serio, nos da la oportunidad de crear realmente un nuevo futuro, pero así amplificando y ayudando a que ellos formen esos futuros, ¿no? Entonces me gustó mucho ver eso de la conferencia. Yo pude hablar estuve en la preconferencia de los jóvenes y la verdad, las ideas que salieron de ahí estuvieron muy buenas y obviamente con mucho poder.
¿Y puedes hablar un poco también sobre la experiencia que ustedes han tomando en su universidad, más sobre la educación de los jóvenes, porque como profesora estás con una perspectiva también que está muy importante sobre la experiencia y las oportunidades de educación que están cambiando en su universidad y estas expectaciones y también requisitos que tienen en la universidad sobre los temas de educación y cómo está cambiando y cómo eso va a afectar dónde podemos ir en el futuro.
No, sí, es muy buen punto, ¿no? Es muy interesante porque yo trabajo en la Universidad de Indiana, que es un estado bastante conservador, ¿no? Pero la universidad siempre ha sido como que un oasis un poco, ¿no? Se podría decir así. Es interesante porque yo sí pedí a mi clase, estoy enseñando una clase de justicia reproductiva y pedí a mis estudiantes, más hombres que otros, hablar con sus amigos sobre la vasectomía y hacer videos. Y de los 4 que dijeron que sí, solo uno pudo hacerlo porque y hizo 3 entrevistas. Otro chico trató de, preguntó cómo 20 personas pidió que se entrevistaran, se dejaran entrevistar sobre la vasectomía y al último momento todos dijeron que no. Sí, yo creo que también en este momento, bueno, siempre hay este recelo sobre la vasectomía para empezar, ¿no? Pero más aún, como dices, en estos tiempos, porque estamos viviendo un retroceso, ¿no? De derechos, de espacios para conversar, temas sensibles, pero temas muy necesarios. Son los temas que realmente vivimos día en día. La salud reproductiva y sexual es el centro de nuestras vidas y la vida, ¿no es cierto? Entonces, el hecho de que están cerrando estos espacios por ley, eh, por presión, por muchas vías, va a ser más difícil nuestro trabajo, ¿no? Que hemos luchado tanto por tener derechos, por tener educación, y estamos viendo pues también los efectos de esos retrocesos que son, ¿no? Hasta la muerte, ¿no? Em, me da mucha pena y también pues y lo veo a mis estudiantes cuando les tengo que decir que hoy tienen menos derechos que tuvieron ayer, es bien impactante. Entonces, estamos ahí, ¿cómo podemos apoyar a esos estudiantes a entender cómo se puede luchar por los derechos y también cómo pueden luchar por su salud sexual y reproductiva?
Sí, gracias por compartiendo esa experiencia y espero que ustedes tengan la oportunidad a compartir cosas que están pasando en derechos de equidad, diversidad, inclusión y las cosas que están un parte central de nuestra sociedad y los sistemas de salud en que necesitamos enfocar. Pues
Sí,
gracias, Lucía. espero que tenemos la oportunidad de celebrar un paso nuevo en esa dirección.
Sí, muchas
Ah,
gracias, Alison.
Gracias, Lucia. Switching to English, I wanted to invite Mia to come online and introduce themselves and share a little bit about. I leave this open-ended. I welcome your thoughts on some of the conversations we've been having around where we need to be going in the direction of youth involvement in family planning and what the opportunities are for us, particularly with engaging men and young men as we think about advancing our rights. So Mia, we welcome your thoughts.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, good to see you. We hear you well.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Mia. I am 25. I'm not sure what exactly I'm supposed to say to introduce myself. But to answer the question, so I think when I think of everything that has to do with like sexual health, I think it's something that is not talked about enough. I feel like I don't know if anyone else has ever had the experience where there's so much that they're learning about, but they're learning about it maybe like as they're doing it, or they don't know what's comfortable. They don't know what's normal, what's not normal. And I think that that's where we go wrong. A couple years ago, I got this really cool opportunity. I was working with kids, and there was a sexual health class that was taught. And it was so weird to see all these kids who are high schoolers, they're 16, 17, 18, some of them already engaging in sexual activities, and yet there's so much they didn't understand and know about their own bodies and the bodies of their partners. So I think that those conversations are conversations that need to happen not when you're starting, but younger, when um, you're starting to figure out your sexuality and starting to grow up and be older. I think there's this what's it called? I've heard a lot of times that people say, hey, you know, you shouldn't, as when you're 12, 13, you shouldn't be learning about sexual reproductive health. I don't think that's accurate at all. I think you should be learning about it. And I think there's a way that you should be learning about it. And there's a way that you should be explaining to people, especially women, hey, this is your body. This is why it matters. And especially for men as well, hey, this is the power that you hold. And this is what you can do. And this is how you can change your life and the life of someone. And those are conversations that I think don't happen enough. And unfortunately, they're very taboo and they're seen as something that's negative or something that should not be talked about. You know, it's kind of like the birds and the bees, and the parents are like, hey, who's going to have this conversation? But it should be a conversation that's had, and it should be something where it should be a space where people are okay with it. They're okay to have the conversation. They're okay to talk about things that they don't understand. They're okay to talk about sexual reproduction. They're okay to talk about even like STIs, like all these things that no one talks about that are important conversations to have, because at the end of the day, sex itself is actually such an important part of our lives. It's the reason, it's the way we were born, number one, but it's a way of, you know, it's a way that whether it's pleasure, whether it's for reproduction, it's such a part of our lives, whether we don't like to admit it or not. And there's so much that has to do with sex that is not just the sexual activity itself. So I think it's something that should have more of a space in young adults' lives, in adult lives, and everyone in general.
I think that's exactly right. It's a really good point. And coming back to one of the things you said at the beginning about this inherent focus on what is normal and what it costs us when we ask that question instead of what's right in my body, and that we need to replace the preference for normal with the preference for an education. I'm
Right.
curious your thoughts on what it is that we are missing for our young men and boys when they are missing that education and when they have a focus on normal. You know, what does that cost us?
I feel like young boys and men, I think they just simply don't really understand one, the consequences of what is happening when they're engaging with especially women sexually. I think whether it's physically, I think mentally, that's also not something that's talked about. I feel like for men, no one really talks about the mental part of having sex. And also even for men, you know, the man is the one who's meant to kind of, you know, pleasure and do all these things, but no one talks about what that means. But no one also talks about the consequences of what happens when you don't wear a condom, what happens when you don't do certain things a certain way, or what happens when you don't feel comfortable in your own body, but yet you're doing all these activities that you think, like you said, you should be doing because whether it's the media or your peers, they're told, hey, this is something that you're supposed to partake in. But what happens when no one really explains that to you? So I think there's a big lack in men actually and young men just having a space where they can be open and honest about. I think men don't even know that they're supposed to have this conversation. I think for us women, it's more of a space now where even when I was younger, I remember I was able to have certain conversations about sex, certain conversations about my body and what that means for me. But I think for men, men are still in a space, even with mental health, where they're just now starting to be like, oh, hey, this is something that matters. Like, I deserve to be heard. I deserve to have a space for myself. And I think with sex, that needs to be even more so something that is told to men, hey, you deserve to understand how your body works. You deserve to understand how someone else's body works. And you deserve to understand the repercussions of your actions and why it matters and why it's important, not only for yourself, but for the possible lives of the people that you're changing.
Absolutely. And all right, to wrap up this section, Mia, can I ask you to give us a call to action from a youth perspective, and in thinking about how we carry this forward? What is it that you invite those of us online and rewatching this recording, you know, what's the call to action that we can take from this as we look both to the future and to this moment to improve where we are and where we want to go?
I think a call to action that is pretty simple, but I think very overlooked, is asking yourself when you're about to be in a situation, in a sexual situation, is asking yourself, is this something that I want to do because I want to do it, or because I'm being pressured to do it, or because I'm being told that this is something I should do? I think a lot of people engage in sexual activity not necessarily because they want to, but because they feel like that's what they should do. So even just that question, I think, can make a big difference.
Yeah, I feel that that's personally a great reminder as well. So I appreciate it so much.
Of
Huge
course, thank you for having me.
Thanks, Mia, and thank you to Lucia. I'm very glad to invite mi compañera y para dar una bienvenida a una amiga y un gran líder de este evento de World Vasectomy Day. Lorena está aquí con nosotros. Por favor, Lorena.
Bueno, muchas gracias, Alison, por coordinar este panel. Vamos dando cierre a este bloque. Agradecerles a todos los que nos vienen acompañando en línea y los que estuvieron presentes acá. Y vamos a presentarles la película El vasectomista, que filmó nuestro director Jonathan Stack hace unos años, junto con nuestro querido Doc Stein. Así que los dejamos con el documental, esperamos que todos lo disfruten.
Gracias.
They're supposed to be here between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, and it's 8:41. So,
Even if your doctors are using billboards,
well, the plastic surgeons do. You know, the laser hair removal people do.
yeah, the ophthalmologists do.
The ophthalmologists do, sure. How much does a vinyl weigh?
Debbie.
I know, I'm saying to myself, wow, these guys are gonna be strong as oxen. Oh, that's heavy. If he falls off that ladder, he dies. Just like I wanted it to look. There's the sign, yay! Sorry, I hit the wrong button.
All right, there's the sign.
One more.
Free vasectomies.
you should have a job that you don't consider your work. Like for me, this is sort of volunteer work and I happen to get paid. You know, if some guy said to me, hey, now look, here's what I need to have you do. You see that white ball over there? I need you to whack that with this club a bunch of times until it goes into that hole. And then you take it out of that hole and then you whack it a bunch of more times until it goes. I'd say, wait, stop right there. No. I'm not interested in doing any of that. That's, you know, that's too much like work for me. I get to chat with a guy about the most social and personal issues for 15 minutes. I get another guy. It's like, whoa, who could have a job like this, right? I mean, even if you're a dentist, you can't talk to anybody because their mouth is open. Popping a little lidocaine through your skin here, Chad, with that spray applicator. So 3 kids and 3's enough, huh?
Yeah.
Did you plan on 3 or they just sort of kept on coming?
They kept coming. Yeah, we planned on 2, and then, and then we had an accident on the 3rd.
Why, were you using another form of contraception that failed or
No,
just
no.
got a little careless?
Yeah.
Couple of drinks at a Christmas party and something like that?
Something like that. If we had the money, she'd want to have 20 kids.
Is that right?
Oh, yes.
Doesn't she get sick of them being around all the time?
Well, she's good with them. My wife, you know, we were playing with the kids and she's like, are you sure? And that's when it's the hardest, when you're playing with, you know, your kids and they're so wonderful and you think, what if I could have more? But, you know, we made this decision for a reason. We want to be able to dedicate the attention and resources that we have to the children that we have. And I just think it'd be selfish for us to have more.
Would you put your right hand right on that piece of gauze there, Chad? Yeah, you're just holding that so it doesn't
Okay.
fall on the floor when you stand up.
Hi, it's Dr. Stein's office. I didn't get your name, but you left a message on our recorder about information regarding this.
My greatest satisfaction comes from preventing unintended pregnancies. You can recycle everything that you can get your hands on for the rest of your life. Every newspaper, magazine, beer can, Coke bottle. But you can't possibly recycle as much as another unintended human will consume. So, you know, 42% of us were the products of unintended pregnancies. I mean, look at that traffic out there. It's not even traffic hour and they're backed up in the left-hand turn lane. It's a scrotal for the weekend. Actually, it's more than for the weekend because we have to make them in 4 different sizes. Okay, so we have Sarasota, Orlando, Jacksonville, and Ocala. I'll take Jacksonville next. Then Jacksonville. I was perfectly happy with urology for about 17 years, but you were just serving one patient and maybe one family. What you were doing had no environmental impact at all. It had no social impact at all to speak of. And then it sort of came together that, wait a minute, I'm a urologist. I can prevent unintended pregnancy through vasectomy. I'm really not supposed to put them on the street side of the sidewalk because that's the easement. But around here, they don't seem to take them, so. Top. All right, 51, 2 kids, 2's enough. Your youngest is 14. Why'd you wait so long? How come we didn't see her 10 years ago?
He was chicken.
Really, chicken. Chicken works. Chicken keep guys out. 3, 2, 1. Did you ever think for a while that you might want a third?
No.
So it was kind of a conclusion.
We always wanted just 2, and that was it.
I wanted a boy and a girl. That's what I got.
Is that right?
I come from a big family. Anyway, there's 6 of us, so.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So much for zero population growth, huh?
Yeah.
Dang. And what's your occupation?
I'm unemployed. I drove a truck for a living. Now nobody will hire me because of the heart condition.
For you guys, a vasectomy is a big expense. Why get the vasectomy now? Because you've been told to stop using
No.
contraceptives or something, or?
She asked me to do it, you know, so.
It's one less thing to worry about.
Yeah,
Accidents happen.
yeah,
Even with protection, accidents happen, so.
you're absolutely right. We see it all the time because we're in the business. And then I'll give you a little bath so you look presentable on the way home in case you get stopped or anything, and then we'll.
Hey, my mother
And
told me
now-
always make neat underwear.
Now you can let the scrotal support take over so those jewels aren't flopping all over Indian River County here, and you can get dressed.
You're lucky I love you, honey.
Would this planet support more than 8 billion people? Sure it could. Could it support 12 billion people? Probably could. But it can't really support 12 billion people as well as biodiversity. I think vasectomy is win-win-win for the people, for the societies, for nature. $90 million people in an area about the size of the state of New Mexico. See all these young people getting off this? They're all going to be ready to go. I think you're out of control in terms of just people. You know, you just look at the number of children here. Is there any chance we could do vasectomies in this place? Ramon, we could do this. We could do this. This is fine.
Juanita can get some tables for us.
You know, we could put these 3 tables like this. But this would demonstrate the portability of vasectomy, you know, to bring it to right where it's needed the most. What greater gift to future generations than to limit their numbers? Do you have 2% lidocaine and 0.5% bupivacaine, or just lidocaine? Here's scrotal supports in case the guy's so well hung, we don't want him to just have a Band-Aid. I'd like to do more than 200. I mean, as a group. Personally, I'd like to do 100. Personally, and then if he does 100, that's 200. And who's this? Nicholas. Pleased to meet you there, Nicholas. So let's see, you have 7 children. The youngest is 30, and the oldest is 30, and the youngest is 5.
Yeah.
All with the same partner?
Yeah.
Aha, wow. Nicholas, when I do this, it feels a little like a snap, okay? Was she taking birth control for all those years? Was she using pills or something?
Oh, the calendar.
Just calendar. Wow. The rhythm method, we call that. Sometimes it doesn't work. I really think I've empowered him to pursue his career and not be overwhelmed with overhead.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. He's offered $20 to each patient. They don't work, they don't get paid. And so this is an income replacement and transportation coverage for them. So we have a little bit to learn about because we might have had a fellow pass out. Sometimes they get a little lightheaded after their vasectomies.
Take his blood pressure.
Oh, I see this in my office, about 1 out of 100 cases. But we're ready for them. You know, we see that the guy is a little bit pale and that he's about, have a seat right there. And then you give him a Mountain Dew or a Dr. Pepper. But that's very common. given my experience with billboards in Florida, we put up some billboards in the Philippines along major thoroughfares. Who would know that an American vasectomy mission was taking place at Sacred Heart Hospital unless people knew about it? I can almost identify the board from the picture that I still have on my computer. It was one on the left, where it says Sacred Heart Hospital.
The vacant one down there.
Where's the billboard? I don't think I believe that. How would you get a board down from there? How would anybody without special equipment put up or remove a vinyl from that spot? Yeah, how could we pay for a service and then the service be slipped right out from under us?
This is the marketing director. My first time to see.
I'm Dr. Stein.
And Dr. Suarez. Dr. Suarez.
I've been using outdoor advertising for a long time.
Okay.
And I guess I looked at this structure and said, I can't imagine someone being able to take a heavy tarpaulin off that structure without some special equipment. I guess I started to wonder who could take a big tarpaulin off a structure like that except someone who had put tarpaulins up or down in the past.
No, actually, sir, we installed that, and then we don't know who pulled out that one. Only our lot owner advised us that from the mayor's office pulled out the tarpaulin. So this is our proof that we really installed the tarpaulin.
Okay, so the mayor's people pulled it down. Have you ever had this happen in the past?
This is our first time, sir, that they pulled out this one. This one, they did not put, we are the one who's, we did it, we did the rolling down of this.
And what made you think that the people in Cebu would be opposed to our providing this service?
This one, the mayor advised them to pull out because against Catholic religion. This word vasectomy.
Yes?
It's a very big word.
very good word for the Catholic.
Very for the Catholic.
I see. So you really don't have freedom of expression.
Country in the Philippines, vasectomy, anything related to reproductive health or something is really a big issue here.
But this is an English word and it's not obscene. It's not a swear word. It is a procedure like, I don't know.
But still, sir,
Colonoscopy.
we are the advertiser, we still have the responsibility.
I have had numerous billboards up in the United States, and my office, I don't think we've ever gotten one objection from a quote unquote devout Catholic.
Now you know how the democracy in the Philippines works.
We provide family planning service. And we provide vasectomy services.
What advertise that thing?
You
If you-
provide information, Father.
I know,
Every morning.
yeah, but
Every
without-
Sunday morning, you provide information.
That's right. Any contraceptive precisely hinders the meeting of the ovum and the semen for life. That is the main objection we have. Since when has Christianity been an easy way of life?
I don't know. So you would be in favor of legislation that actually outlaws any form of family planning?
A country that approves contraception eventually approves abortion and eventually approves euthanasia because they run along the same continuum.
There's an expression
Like,
in our society that's called fear tactics. We have had family planning in the United States for a long time, and we have no euthanasia.
reproduction is a work of man. Man and woman make love, etc. They make it. But we say, no, we should insist on procreation because God has to enter into the picture.
But do you think that there is a limit to the comfortable carrying capacity of this planet?
We say this again and again. There is no such thing as overpopulation in the Philippines. Look around sa Cebu. If there are not many areas which are not populated at all.
Swim. Little tadpoles, about 60 to 100 million of them every time you have sexual activity. And you know how many sperms get to fertilization? One. Out of that 60 million, there's only one. So we are not chance. I mean, this is very simple. Don't believe these other people who would say, oh, natural family planning, so difficult. It's not difficult once you know it. Stays with you. You can use this thing until you're in menopause. Okay? Nature, right? Nature, nice. See, so our natural family planning is nature. The body of the woman is like a farm, all right? What chance will the seed have if it is planted and there's rain? It will grow, right? When you are wet, you are fertile. Chance of being pregnant. Do you know when you are wet? I know that you feel that you're just ashamed to say it, right? Yeah, okay. There is little wet, medium wet, very wet, very good chance of getting pregnant. You have to evaluate what kind of mucus you have every day to determine whether you are fertile or not. If you use your will, your intelligence, you can pinpoint when this happens. You don't have to use any drugs. Okay? You use drugs every day of your life just so you won't get pregnant in these 2 to 3 days? That's really dumb, diba? Stupid, you know. Okay.
And I'm just a word type of person. I would object to the use of natural because I don't think it's natural for a woman to stifle her desire to have sex when she is in the middle of her cycle and she wants to have sex the most.
Is it natural to use hormones to prevent birth?
Is it natural? Is it natural to take a medicine to keep my blood pressure down? If God wants my blood pressure to be high, let it be high. These couples are eventually going to reach the point where if the wand of infertility touched them, they feel comfortable with the number of children that they've already had.
Yes, natural. For
And
18
do we have
more
any studies to
years.
suggest that that natural will prevent them from getting into that overly burdensome fifth, sixth, or seventh child?
People who are born, okay, they are not just kind of receiving food. People who are born will also be producers. So don't think that if you have a lot of babies, okay, more mouths to feed. That's not exactly true. They are producers too.
Yes, but if your population growth rate is 5 children per woman, especially among the lower socioeconomic groups, then the government simply doesn't have the resources to keep up with that much. The taxpayers don't generate that kind of tax base.
It's okay. We Catholics do not consider children as a burden. Okay, it's not a burden.
It's not a burden if you let them wander around in the garbage dump. They're not any burden to me at all. Go out and find your own garbage. That's no burden, right? They're wonderful.
I mean, your mind is just through the dumps. You know, you have seen so many dumps. That's not all people there are unhappy. Do you see that?
Yes, I do. I do.
I
We
see
saw.
a lot of unhappy people in America with 2 kids, divorce and all that. Why won't you look and see why are these people happy? Because they have love, okay? They are poor, but they have love.
Yeah. Ramil, pleased to meet you. Numero uno. I have heard that 2 buses have arrived with 40 patients apiece. We'll meet the challenge.
Tangan niya, gamay kay lungag. Dako-dako lang sa mga reels. Okay, a little puncture. Anya na ang instrumento, puaw niya ang vest. You pull out the vest. Kaya yung uban, yung mga human kong vasectomy, I will not have any more erection. Kana mga sulti na dili na mao, ha?
Are you guys seeing okay? You can come closer. I'm gonna do 3 things to this vest. I'm gonna cauterize it and divide it and separate the ends. I don't know how many I've done. I know that we're up to number 88. We still have another 30 to go, right? Sure you don't want me to do another one here? I don't want to keep him here all night. Why don't you grab another guy? Okay, Gilbert, all set. I think we're good. What final word is there after you've done 107? I'd keep going if I didn't have a flight tonight. In the Philippines, one guy had a really, really fat penis because he had been injecting himself with, it wasn't a silicone something, it was a liquid commonly available.
Bigger?
Yeah, it causes fibrosis of the tissue. And he had this kind of pretty nasty looking penis, but it was thick. And he said that it was a hit. Yeah, it was a pretty nasty looking thing.
When we were 22 and 23, I was 22, you were 23.
Mere babes.
Even then,
Wow.
you were concerned about population.
Which is odd because I think I voted for Reagan.
Because you always liked nature and you always had a respect for, as much of a respect for nature or more than.
The average person, maybe.
Yeah, why
I
did
mean,
you
the
develop?
downside of being his wife is he's so,
So I don't throw things away.
I can be
Well-
taking a shower and he'll just come in and turn all the lights off.
Oh.
Done that for a long time because I made a big fuss. And when Allison and Curtis were going to school, we always had to arrange carpooling, even though some of the other mothers didn't want to share our children in their car.
Yeah.
It was,
This is getting worse. I was a dictator. She's a really good wife for putting up with all that.
times when it was difficult. We had to try and encourage other people to have Doug's views just so we could
No,
get
but at
by.
the same time, it's all good things. I mean, it's a very small price to pay for not having such a big carbon footprint.
You felt that just being here, that you were destroying the planet. You were one of the largest carnivores that ever roamed the planet.
Well, yeah, I guess sometimes I still feel like that, but if I'm working, I can't do this. I don't know. As long as I'm working towards helping the situation, then
You alleviate your own,
Right.
the guilt of your own existence.
good.
Yeah, but you were an intended pregnancy. You were, you're the apple of our eye and, a wonderful thing. So it's, how could you say that?
You have to be careful what you say things to your children.
Okay, let's hope the car starts. Sure that I haven't been as good a dad as many other fathers are. Just given my preoccupation with my occupation. I don't know. Maybe I'm a victim of my occupation, but I created it. It didn't create me. time is ticking on Haiti. That doesn't mean it's going to dissolve. Haiti's been kind of a fix for a long time. But it's not getting better with more people. I mean, it's only getting worse with more people, it seems to me. Is there a country where the population is just growing furiously and it's prospering like crazy? I don't know. Sean, how are you? Good to see you again. Thank you for seeing our whole entourage here. We learn a lot in the Philippines, and we're hoping that some of the things we learn in the Philippines can be applied to Haiti. We were offering $20 to cover their transportation and their day lost from work, etc., and they came by the busload. When we tell men that they are, eligible for this compensation, it sort of sweetens the pie.
I think I'm quite sure we can have some success with that, giving incentives if we organize the program very well.
I agree with you 100%. That's the ideal. Is that ideal likely to come about in the foreseeable future? I mean, is it likely to come about when Haiti has 10 million people or 12 million people or 15 million people?
In Haiti, if you give $20 to someone who doesn't have anything to eat to have vasectomy, you must be sure that the people understand very well what they are doing.
But do we have to be sure that we also don't give him the bad advice that it's okay to have that 6th or 7th child? That might be a worse mistake than having a vasectomy. He may not be able to afford the child. He may not be able to educate the child. The mother of the child may die in the process of childbirth. I think I'm right when I say that the biggest source of mortality among Haitian women from age 15 to 35 is pregnancy and childbirth. Why are we so careful to advise people about the risks of getting a vasectomy?
It's a question of ethics, not, to pay someone to have any kind of family planning.
Apenas esta última massa que está na frente ao poder estudar. Ça ele vasectomie. Yo fait pour garçon. Ça c'est pénis. Ça c'est testicule. Si deux petits fils ça ou pas là, yo pas croiser sous pénis d'abord ici à là. Pour féconder lui, ou mettre persex juste pour le guindon pas faire petit.
Ouais, donc,
Yeah.
mais vasectomie, il n'y a pas aucun problème sur le virus, monsieur.
Ou plus endurance qu'on a, parce qu'on n'a pas de fait mal, on n'a pas de sauter, qu'on a pas de petit qu'on a là. Vous connaissez si on pas te contrôler si mon aux États-Unis tape dans misère même j'en connais ici à tout. Parce que depuis gain quantité de timon ou pas qu'à yo chaque pas qu'à gain chambre au pour coucher. Yo pas qu'à manger bien le matin. Yo pas qu'à l'école, yo tout tourné bon ou son homme qui n'a mis dans notre cas. Et mieux que garçon au fait vasectomie.
How are you? Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Do we still have some work to do?
We will have maybe 2 or 3 more
Okay.
vasectomies, and I have maybe 2 or 3 more tubal ligation.
I will give him a little countdown here. 3, 2, 1 in Spanish.
I'm going to perform the tubal ligation. She is 41, and she really need that.
Does she and her husband know about vasectomy? Do they know about vasectomy?
She knows, but the men refuse. to have a vasectomy. Tatiana, moi pose mes sous, qu'on y a dans nos papas petit avec l'Esprit Saint. C'est vous Jésus-Christ sauveur nous, insistez nous par présence dans le moment ça. Nous demandons de nous délivrer, on va tout maladie de capable bien encore avec notre esprit. Amen. Okay. Vasectomy is more simple. You don't have to go to abdominal cavity. But men are afraid to lose their libido. That's why most of the time they refuse to come. And it will take time because we need to educate men all the time.
Tubal ligation is more popular than vasectomy worldwide. Yeah, not just in Haiti or in the US or.
Bisectomy has been the slowest.
Yes.
That's been the one that would hang back, and we didn't really feel that we had done some, but we had not moved forward with that program. It's gone slow here.
What we learned today is that education is important, but they have to want the education. When Amos goes out into the street to a bunch of men who are idle and says, come this way to learn about family planning, and nobody comes.
That's right.
What are you gonna do?
What are you recommending?
I'm recommending that we sweeten the pie for them, that we say, we need to come in here and listen to this, and we'll offer you a free meal at one level. At another level, we've done it in the Philippines, we cover their transportation costs. We cover their time lost from work. Some people call those incentives, but that's a word that's frowned
Okay,
upon.
right.
But it's income replacement. If we don't have that, we're not gonna get the patients. And we just proved that today. He was out on the street and nobody is interested.
You know, I've been here all 60 years, and that I've seen change, but you don't see it all at once. In fact, it's coming along and you don't even know what's going on. When you get down and you look back, you say, yes, it changed, and it will change. But we need a lot of talking, presenting.
Do we have people with enough energy to do that without results? We get results in the Philippines. It's simple.
Well, that's great.
The change in the Philippines can
we
happen.
need help in Haiti.
You can have it. Allow us to give incentives. I believe that we're all just mixtures of chemicals and chemical reactions. And it makes sense for a man to be sexually driven throughout his life because he doesn't pay the price for a pregnancy. You know, a caveman who gets a cave woman pregnant doesn't have to worry about risks of pregnancy. It's her who has to worry about the risks.
Nou remarke ke moun ki gen plus moyen yo gen moins petit, moun ki pa gen moyen yo, c'est eux même qui gen plus petit en là.
Mwen li yo ba bezwe fè sa pou parce m'kon lem ka gos, m'kon lem pa ka gos. Non li nou pa konnen degajen.
Certifique balou. Ou pa paye 5 kob.
Ki bon.
M'pal présence la konya. Soit les konya là, ou ap tourner après-midi ou ap veni. Si c'est l'argent motocyclette ou pas gagné, on met pour motocyclette aller, ou ap tourner ma bolage motocyclette pour retourner venir. Ça, c'est yeah. Exactly. That's cool, man.
Pa vle ki nou pa
C'est pas tout ça va ou. Okay. Tell him Perry. When we we'll give them the money. Papa la caille, man. Allez côté système de l'eau à présence là. L'autre une passe casée là.
I don't know how many guys we have now. We just have 2 drivers and maybe we have 5 now.
Yeah, about 5.
Now, remember, we're going, we don't even know what our facilities are. We don't even know if we have an operating table in a place that's is a little bit of a gamble here on our part. That one down. Well, what I was thinking of is I was thinking of setting up 5 trays, stacking up 5 trays so we can go fast without having to reload, or you want to just do 1 tray at a time? Okay. And what else do we need on here, Ramon? Open a Band-Aid onto there and a fenestrated drape, and we'll be about ready to go for the first company. You want money now? Take what I've got here, take this, and then take another 100, and you figure it out. What the, huh?
Yeah. No, pagan op zijn bureau.
Imagine me forgetting these.
We'll have to cancel.
I'd have to cancel.
No.
I'll take the ring clamp, Ramon. All right, I think we have pretty perfect for second. It's finished. Benny. We're ready for our next patient. Is this our next patient, John? Toto, would you ask him how many children he has? 7 children?
Qui ça qui fait ou
He has enough children.
la décision ça?
Décision pas pour ça. Je t'exprime moi presque pas qu'à aider madame.
Okay.
Thank him for sharing his life
Yes.
story with us.
But
Tell him that
I-
thank
that-
you for telling us, because the more we
Yes.
know about the people here,
Yes.
the better we'll be able to serve them.
Et si vous voulez lever charge, vous voulez là-dedans, ben n'importe qui travaille, ou pas de rien, on va faire là. Même si on te compte faire, continuez de faire votre vendredi de messie. Ok, it's for you. On va échanger les la poste ensemble. Bonne retour.
You have Fabi. Today is so determined to have a settlement. You told me earlier, even if you had to stay in bed for 3 years after the vasectomy, you would do it anyway. Okay. All right. Put on that.
Toto, ask him how many children he has.
26. 26. He got 26 kids.
Oh, my. Okay. What's the secret to his charm?
He's a man.
That's all? All it takes is maleness, huh?
Find that there are motorcycles coming to drop people for vasectomy.
Right now.
Yeah, and they want to know when is your next trip here.
Wow. Nothing like putting the pressure on. I have never done a vasectomy with this limited amount of light. Ramon, if you turn on your light also, I'll be able to see those instruments a little bit better, and we'll get a slightly different lighting situation here. We have done more vasectomies than have been done in Haiti in the last year. Okay, so we leave operating suite number 1. Whoever found this pad, I wasn't expecting a nice foam pad here, but this wasn't a bad place. In fact, maybe one of us could stay here tonight. Good. And there's the charts right there. 15 men done in Plaisance, Haiti. Whenever I've been away and I come back to the suburban sprawl and the big houses and the highways full of big cars, I'm reminded that this is the most important place to do vasectomies. Americans are among the most consumptive and waste productive individuals in the world. On your right side, this will feel like a snap. 3, 2, 1. Have you ever caused a pregnancy, Sean?
No.
Have you ever known a friend who was involved in a pregnancy that was unintended?
Yes. The entire pregnancy thing. You have no control over it.
Well, that's right. The guy has no control.
Exactly.
I mean, it's the girl still has a choice.
It seems like you're supposed to do certain.
Recording stop.